Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in for today's webinar on UAE Residence Visas. My name is Lydia Wummeltiagi. I'm Director at the European Enterprise Team, and it is my pleasure to host the session today. Whilst we initially planned a session on UAE Residence Visas only, we all have read about the breaking news in the press that the UAE has initiated a complete overhaul of its foreign investment regime, allowing 100% foreign ownership in onshore companies, except in certain sectors. While the according decree is not available yet and the details are therefore not entirely clear, we will cover this topic in today's session. Just a very brief overview of the agenda today. I will start with a very brief introduction about MBG Corporate Services. Then my colleague Dana will talk about UAE as an investment hub, and of course the latest updates on 100% business ownership for foreign investors. And then Mr. Chandy will talk about different types of UAE visas and recent amendments. At the end, we will have an open Q&A session and would therefore request all of you to send your questions in the Q&A box or the chat, and we will address those questions either today live in the session or we will get back to you individually. Yeah, for those who don't know us yet, MBG Corporate Services has been established in 2002, is headquartered in Singapore, has 16 offices in 6 locations with which we cover Europe, Middle East, and Asia. Here in UAE, we have around 200 employees who work for us from our offices in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Sharjah. Globally, we have around 3,000 clients, and we are extremely proud that 100 of them are Fortune 500 companies, and globally, we have 500 professionals working for us. We as a firm support organizations at every stage of their life cycle, from inception through growth journey, all the way through maturity and extension. Needless to say that, especially in these times, companies are looking for guidance and support on how to deal with developments, no matter which stage of their life cycle they are at. Yeah, as you can see here, we have an extremely wide range of services which enables us to support organizations wherever they are in their journey. We have the traditional audit and assurance business, under which also comes the Unified ICV certification, for which we are one of the approved certifying partners in UAE. We also do a lot of work on risk advisory and have directors heading indirect and direct taxation. On the mergers and acquisition side, we support companies on both sell and buy side. We have a legal team. We have Delna today from the legal team and Chandy from our PRO team, supporting many of our clients on the new economic substance regulation. And we continue to support companies in their strategy and transformation requirements. Next slide, Raul, please. As a firm, we are industry agnostic and we support companies no matter which industry they are in and have the manpower to support wherever applicable. With this, I would like to welcome again everyone on this call and introduce the speakers for today. Today we have Mr. Chandy Joseph as one of the speakers. He leads the company formation and PRO services team of MBG Corporate Services. He comes with 14 years of in-depth experience in company formation, corporate sponsorship services, corporate PRO services, advisory services on entity structure and investment mode, and company liquidation services. He has in past successfully led his teams to provide quality deliveries on timely manners. And as a second speaker, I'm very happy to welcome Delna Palya from our legal team. Delna is a legal manager at MBG Corporate Services and has a lot of years of experience in the legal sector, working in some of the most prestigious law firms in India and UAE, with clients from real estate, construction, shipping, hospitality, financial services, education, training, and retail sector. With this, I would like to hand it over to Delna, and she will brief you about the hot news on 100% business ownership. Delna, please, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lydia. I'd like to start by talking about how UAE started in 1950 as a place where dates and maritime shipping was more or less the kind of place it was. Then in 1950, there was the discovery of oil. 1966, His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan talked about, in harmony, in some sort of federation, we could follow the example of other developing countries, and most definitely they have and exceeded the same. And then in 1971, we became the 7 Emirates, a federation. UAE is well known for its oil reserves, crude oil, natural gas, aluminium, and it is strategically best located for all of the GCC, Middle East, and East Asia. UAE is one of the youngest countries in the world. However, it is definitely one of the most developing and growing nations in regards to the highest cutting edge technology, infrastructure, and they are even working on their education and healthcare tremendously to grow to become number one. It is also very extensively diplomatic in their commercial regulations between different nations. It is significantly playing a role with regards to keeping the best relations within the GCC and with the UN, and adopting a lot of policies and procedures requested by the UN in order to be in harmony with the rest of the world. Why is it great to do business in UAE? It's a tax-free haven. You can repatriate 100% of your capital back to your home country. Can have 100% investment in any free zone and run completely independently. And there are global standards of infrastructure, government services, education, healthcare. Most definitely, it is non-negotiable that it has the highest standard of living, the most modern infrastructure, communication. Again, healthcare and education is growing. And most importantly, it is the prime location for regional distribution offices within the Middle East. Some very interesting points about UAE is that it is the 16th ease of doing business as per the World Bank report. It is considered the second happiest place on earth as per the UN Happiness Index. It is the 25th Global Competitive Report of the World Economic Forum. The 9th Future Brand Country Index in 2020 is what it is expected, and the 9th IMD World Competitive Yearbook 2020. It is most definitely developing at a very fast rate. As we know, blockchain is one of the adopted policies in the UAE, and definitely there is a tremendous industrial revolution. Now we will go on a very exciting slide about the latest updates that are expected in the first week of December, which are yet to come, but here's a snapshot of what we are hoping to see. Businesses are intending to have 100% business ownership by foreign investors. So if you're a company that is within the mainland of UAE, and or you are an investor interested in investing in the UAE, this is the time to do it, because now there are meant to be new laws put into place that will completely amend the civil laws in UAE, the commercial company laws in UAE, allowing no more requirement for UAE national to be a 51% shareholder, which is the current status as of today. It is intended by first week of December that these rules are implemented and coming into force, or at least we will hear more about them by then. And definitely the management and control for 100% investor will be in a more safer hands. And of course, we are expected to see certain more tightening of the rules and regulation against fraud for the heads of organizations. So there will be more order and there will be more security in that regard. Any kind of mismanagement of top shareholders and management will have stringent penalties. That is what is expected in the UAE in the coming rules and regulation movement. And secondly, through COVID, we all understood how important it was to work teleportly. Accordingly, UAE is planning to take this into consideration in their civil and corporate laws, and ensuring that definitely AGMs and other such important meetings can be attended through electronic means of communication. This is also a very progressive move. Most interesting move for any company looking for a listing and becoming a public company is that previously initial public offer, or currently initial public offer, is considered around 30%, and now it is hoping to come into play that it will be 70%. So companies looking to get big will see a substantial benefit by this method. So now the question is, what do you have to do? What you have to do now is gear up for the intended future. In the next 6 months, we will see the changes in regulations. We will see in how they will be implemented, the processes and procedures. But today, you need to check your current contracts with your various Emirati UAE national shareholder. How is it possible to loosen the ties with your relationship with your distributors and agents? And what will be the ancillary repercussions of ancillary contracts with vendors and third parties, and how can you circumvent any kind of negative impact to your business? So now is the time that you need to assess your contracts, your documents, your processes. Understand that if you would wish to go in for 100% ownership of your company, which will definitely give you a much more secure comfort in the future of your growth of your company, then in that case, what is the processes, what is the procedures as per the corporate compliance documents, what are the ministerial requirements, and what are the terms and conditions that you need to ensure you are capable of fulfilling. And then you can definitely see this benefit and reap this benefit in the future, which is a very exciting change. Now, I would like to hand it over to Mr. Chandy Joseph, my good colleague, who will run us through a very interesting concept of the visa rules and regulations for all of us who want to continue to enjoy to live in UAE forever. Hand it over to you, Chandy.
Many thanks, Delna. Very good morning to all. My name is Chandy Joseph. So as my colleague Ms. Delna has already briefed the journey of UAE from the land of desert to the land of opportunities. UAE is the first country in the Middle East who took the initiative of designing a diversified economy and thus reducing its less dependence to the oil revenue. To support these initiatives, UAE has recently introduced many new rules and regulations following the international law to attract the international companies and the professionals to find UAE as the perfect destination to establish their business and to live. The United Arab Emirates is considered home for many expatriates from all over the world, and UAE is also during the recent research, the UAE has identified that the UAE expat population consists from over 200 nationalities. So in my section, I will take you through the different types of residence visas which are currently available here in UAE, the new regulations, and the eligibility criteria applicable. So what is UAE Residence Visa? UAE Residence Visa is a permit that allows foreign people to live in this country for a long period of time. During early days, there were only two kinds of residence visa which were available. That was Employment Visa and Investor Visa. Sorry. In 2019, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Vice President and ruler of Dubai, announced the launch of Golden Card Visa scheme to give exceptional workers and foreign investors the opportunity to establish deeper roots in the country and allow the nations to benefit from their expertise. So what are the different types of residence visa currently available here in UAE? So UAE Residence Visa can be broadly classified into 10 categories. So the first category is the most popular visa category, which is called the UAE Employment Visa, UAE Retirement Visa, which is a newly introduced visa program, UAE Investor Visa, UAE Resident Visa through family sponsorship, UAE Golden Visa, which is the most trending topic nowadays in UAE, UAE Resident Visa for property owners, UAE Resident Visa for students, UAE Resident Visa for domestic workers, Freelance Visa, and also the most recently launched Overseas Remote Working Professionals Visa. Next slide, please. So in this slide, I will explain to you about the most popular UAE Employment Visa. A foreign national who obtained an employment in UAE should have the resident visa to work and live. The employer will be the sponsor for the employee and us to provide the employment visa. The employment visa in the mainland normally valid for 2 years, and the employment visa from the free zone is valid for 3 years. There are certain free zones in UAE which offers 2-year employment visa as well. So firstly, we will go through the employment visa requirement for the mainland. So for the company to be eligible to sponsor their employee, they have to meet certain requirements. Firstly, they should have an approved visa quota from the Ministry of Labor. They should also have a valid trade license. They should also have a valid immigration card and company labor card. If they are able to meet these criteria, and also they should have a minimum space of a minimum office space, which should be as per the Ministry of Labor instructions. If they are able to meet all these criteria, then they will be able to sponsor their employee. So from the employee side, so what are the requirements? It will be the passport, the original passport, the personal photo with a white background. For certain designations, the Ministry of Labor will request for the educational certificate and it has to be attested. And the employee should have a health insurance that should be provided by the company. And then the medical fitness certificate and Emirates ID biometric scan as well. For the employment visa for the free zones, actually the criteria is almost the same for the employee, but for the company, actually there is little difference in that because the Ministry of Labor is not involved in issuing the employment visa in the free zone. So what are the requirements that the company has to meet is that they have to have a valid trade license, they should have an immigration card, and they should also have a minimum space as instructed by the specific free zone. So when we talk about the requirements from the employee, the requirements from the employee will remain the same as like in the mainland. Next slide, please. Now we will move to the UAE Retirement Visa, which is a very trending topic nowadays because UAE has the professionals at the age of 55. UAE considered the professionals at the age of 55 as well-experienced professionals. And that's the reason why UAE has introduced a new initiative to make use of their skills and experience. With the prospect of retiring in UAE now, the Emirate can attract and keep more experienced talent and build a more sustainable, invested, long-term focused social fabric in the country. A retired expatriate and their spouse can qualify for a 5-year residence visa, and if their children is also falls under the eligibility criteria, and the retired expatriate can sponsor them as well, and can be renewed automatically online as long as the retiree continues to meet the eligibility criteria. So what are the eligibility criteria or what are the requirements for a retired expatriate? So firstly, they should have the age should be the minimum age to apply for the UAE retirement visa is 55 years, and he should also have a valid UAE health insurance. And there is another criteria that they have to follow, which is the basic criteria that the UAE government will consider it as an eligibility criteria. Either the retired expatriate has to meet a monthly income of AED 20,000 dirhams, which will be approximately USD 5,500. Or the option 2 is that they have to have a minimum savings either in their savings account or as in fixed deposit of 1 million AED, or approximately it will be in USD 275,000. Or option 3, he should have a minimum investment in the property, which will be AED 2 million, or which will be approximately USD 550,000. Or it can be a combination of option 2 and option 3, which will be like combining the two options, and the value should meet will be AED 2 million. I will just give you a brief example, then you will understand about this. If this retired expatriate is having a property which is having a value of 1.5 million, and he is having a savings of 500,000, then he will be eligible to apply for the retirement visa. So this is how the option 4 will work. Next slide, please. Now we will quickly move to the UAE Investor Visa. So a foreign national will be eligible for the investor or partner visa if he or she owns a company or holds shares in an existing company. The validity of the investor visa is 3 years, and which can be renewed for the similar period until the investor is meeting the requirements. So what are the requirements for an investor to apply for an investor visa? So the minimum requirement is that firstly, he should have his name in the trade license. And moreover, when talking about the requirements from the company, sorry, he should have a valid trade license, and the authority will ask for the partners list, which shows that his name in the trade license. He should have the company should have an immigration card, and they should also have a memorandum of association or local service agent, which shows the partnership, which shows the percentage of share in the license. And what is the requirement that the investor has to meet to qualify for this investor visa? He should have a valid passport, which should be minimum 6 months of validity, a personal photo with a white background. He should have a medical fitness certificate, and he should also have Emirates ID biometric scan, which will qualify him to apply for the investor visa. Next slide, please. So in this slide, I will explain to you about the visa through the family sponsorship, which is a very common trend in UAE. So whoever is living in the UAE, and if they falls under the eligibility criteria, normally they sponsor their family and they live with their family here in UAE. So a foreign national who has secured a UAE resident visa can sponsor the resident visa of their families. And what are the requirements? Normally, for an investor who would like to sponsor his family, he should the minimum requirement is that he should have an investor visa, and on the basis of that, he can sponsor the family. But he should provide a refundable deposit of AED 3,000 dirhams for each family member. And for the employees can sponsor the family if they are meeting the requirement that the minimum salary should be 4,000 dirhams plus accommodation per month. And employee can sponsor the visa for their parents as well, but the minimum monthly salary requirement is AED 20,000 dirhams, and they should also has to provide a 2-bedroom apartment tenancy details. Next slide, please. So now we move to the most trending topic in the country nowadays, which is called the Golden Visa. The UAE Golden Visa has been one of the most trending topics in the country since its announcement. Earlier, the investors were having a feeling that UAE is a place for the short stay. The new visa rules in the UAE allows investors and people from specific occupations to apply for the 10-year long-term UAE residence visa or 5-year long-term residence visa. This move is definitely going to boost the UAE economy and the real estate market. We are also seeing a growing trend among the investors started investing confidently in UAE, keeping in mind that it is no more a short stay visa which is applicable here in UAE. Golden Visa can be classified into UAE Golden Visa for investors and Golden Visa for the special talent. So firstly, we will look into the UAE Golden Visa for investors. And before that, I would also like to inform you that the Golden Visa advantage can be extended to the spouse and children, all categories for the spouse and the children. So now we will move to the UAE Golden Visa for the investors. An expatriate investor can apply for a 10-year residence visa if he or she can meet the certain conditions. So what are the conditions? Actually, a deposit of at least AED 10 million in an investment fund inside the country, or if he is establishing a company in the UAE with a capital of not less than AED 10 million, or partnering in an existing or a new company with a share value of not less than AED 10 million under his name, or having a total investment of not less than AED 10 million in all areas mentioned, on one condition that the investment in the sectors other than the real estate should be 60%. So the investment they will consider in the property or in the real estate will be maximum 40%. The investor also has to meet the following conditions for granting the Golden Visa. The amount invested must not be loaned. That means if the customer is providing the tenancy contract to support this, actually not the tenancy contract, the title deed of the property to support this, then the title deed should be under the name of the investor, not under the name of the bank. The investment should be retained for at least 3 years. There should be a financial solvency up to AED 10 million, or otherwise they will not get approved. Next slide, please. So very recently, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of UAE and ruler of Dubai, on 15th of November 2020, announced that more classes of professionals will be eligible for the 10-year golden residency visa. And this is just an initial stage. Moving forward, UAE government is planning to add more professionals into the list to attract more professionals to the UAE. So one condition is that all categories are required to have a valid employment contract in a specialized field of priority in the UAE. So what are the list of professionals, the updated list of professionals who are eligible for the golden visa? So the first one is actually the PhD degree holders, means the professionals holding the PhD degree, not from any universities, but from the universities which is considered as the top 500 universities in the world, will be eligible to apply for the 10-year visa. So the second category that they approved is the doctors who are specialized in viral epidemiology, who will help the country to better cope with the pandemic and meet shortfall of medical professionals in the country, is eligible to apply for the 10-year visa. The third category is the engineers. This is the new on the list actually. Engineers in the field of computers, electronics, programming, biotechnology, electrical, electronics, active technology, artificial intelligence, and big data processes can obtain the golden visa under the category engineers. The fourth category is highly qualified individuals. The highly qualified individuals are considered as individuals who have achieved high scores of 3.8 and above GPA and are from the abroad universities, are considered as highly qualified individuals. The fifth category is researchers and scientists. Researchers and scientists who are specialists in their respective fields and must be accredited by Emirates Scientist Council, or holders of Mohammed bin Rashid Medal for Scientific Excellence are only qualified under the researchers and scientists category. The next one is the inventors. The UAE also offers the golden visa to inventors, but there is a criteria that they have to meet. They must obtain a patent of value which adds to the UAE economy, and the patent should be approved by the Ministry of Economy. And the last category is the artist. Creative individuals in the field of culture and art, and they should be accredited by Ministry of Culture and Knowledge Development, will be eligible for the golden visa. Next slide, please. And we also have UAE golden visa, which is for the 5-year visa for the professionals. The Dubai Future Foundation Area 2071 in Dubai and Hub 71 in Abu Dhabi is started nominating entrepreneurs who will be eligible under this visa program. To be eligible to apply for this visa, you should already have a running business. The business should be worth at least dirhams 500,000, or your business should have been approved by an accredited business incubator in the UAE. You will also be required to obtain insurance for yourself and your family for the entire residency period. Under this visa program, the 5-year visa can also be granted through 3 executive directors who work for the entrepreneur as per the authority. However, these directors should be worked exclusively for the entrepreneur only during this visa term. They are not allowed to work for any other third parties. And the second category is for the outstanding students. Actually, UAE has identified, UAE started identifying the outstanding students. How they're identifying these outstanding students? By understanding that if the school students, or if they are graduated with a grade of at least 95% from the secondary schools, whether is it from the public or the private sector, are considered as eligible for this visa. University students must graduate with a distinctive GPA of at least 3.75 from the universities within and outside the country will also be eligible for under the category outstanding students, but they have to get a no objection, a letter from the university, a request letter from the university for them to be eligible for the 5-year visa program. And the good thing is that actually the outstanding students can sponsor their family as well if they are coming under this visa program. And I would like to see what are the further requirements for the golden visa for the specialist talent that we already discussed about the categories with regard to engineers, doctors, special talents. So there is further requirement for those categories to be eligible for that. For doctors and specialists, the applicant must fulfill at least one of the following conditions. The applicant hold a PhD degree issued by one of the top 500 universities are eligible for that, or the applicant who is having a PhD degree and 10 years professional experience in the respective field can also be eligible. Applicant has an award or certificate of appreciation related to the respective field of their expertise will also be eligible for this program. And if the applicant is a member of an organization related to the respective field, can also be eligible for this for the golden visa program. Applicant has published any articles or scientific book in a renowned publications related to the respective field can also be eligible for this program. Applicant and specialists specialize in an area that's of priority to the UAE, and there are certain sectors and there are certain categories which UAE considers as a priority, and they are specialized in that area can also be considered as eligible for the UAE golden visa. For executives, applicant is if the applicant is heading a leading and international recognized company, then those executives can also apply for the golden visa. For other exceptional talents, applicants must have a scientific research that has been published in a world-class journal or must have a patent related to that respective field, can also apply for the golden visa. Next slide, please. Now moving to the UAE visa for overseas working professionals. This is the new visa program that the UAE has introduced in the month of October of 2020 based on the global pandemic situation. The global pandemic has changed how we live and work. As multinationals and leading startups across the world accelerate their rates of digital adoption, the need to be physically present to fulfill the professional responsibilities has been redefined. Dubai is uniquely positioned to offer a safe, dynamic lifestyle opportunity to these digitally savvy workers and their families, while they continue to work remotely, whether it is for a couple of months or an entire year. So who will qualify under these overseas working professionals? Who can apply for this kind of visas? To be eligible for this program, the individual must follow the following criteria. They should possess a passport. That is actually, it's a common rule here in UAE to have a valid visa in the passport. They should have a passport with a minimum validity of 6 months. And he or she should have an health insurance with a UAE coverage validity. And they should also show a proof of employment from their current employer with a minimum validity of 1 year contract, showing that their minimum salary on a monthly basis is USD 5,000. And if they are able to furnish all the requirements like the 3 months bank statement or the pay slip or the letter from the current employer, then accordingly, they will be able to apply for this visa. If the applicant is a company owner, then they must show the proof of ownership of the company for at least 1 year. Along with that, they should also show an average monthly income of USD 5,000, which will be supported by the 3 months bank statement. Which can also satisfy the authority to issue the overseas working professionals visa. Next slide, please. Now we will quickly move to the UAE Residence Visa program for the property owners. Actually, an expatriate investor interested in the real estate can also apply for the UAE Residence Visa. Depending on the value of the property, the investor can get either a 5-year residence visa or a 3-year residence visa, provided the requirements are met. Basically, there are Basically, there are 3 types of UAE investor visa. You can opt for any of them. One is the 6 months multiple entry Dubai property visa. This will be the visa that they will issue initially and which then will be converted into the residence visa. Then the Dubai property visa for 3 years as well as 5 years. So what are the eligibility criteria for the 5-year property visa? See, for the 5-year property visa, the process is actually the straightforward. The applicant has to approach the land department, and the investor must invest in a property of gross value of not less than 5 million. And they should also meet that the amount invested in the real estate must not be on a loan basis. If it is on the loan basis, then the authority will not approve this. And also the property must be retained for at least 3 years. So these are the conditions that will make them eligible for the 5-year residence visa. But you should keep it in mind that the title deed of the property should be under the owner name. And what are the eligibility criteria for a 3-year visa? Earlier they were issuing this property visa for 2 years, but very recently they have changed into 3 years. So the investor must, if the investor who is having a property value, a gross value of not less than AED 1 million, can be eligible to apply for the 3-year visa. It is not a straightforward process because there are multiple departments which are involved to issue this visa. One is the land department and another one is the economic department, and property has been completed, and there is another requirement is that the property should be completed and handed over to its owner by the developer. The apartment or villa must be comfortable to accommodate the family of the investor, and they should also show the proof that they should be having a monthly income of not less than 10,000 dirhams or equivalent in the foreign currencies. What are the required documents which can satisfy the authority to apply for either for the eligibility for 5-year visa or 3-year visa? It will be the title deed, the passport copy, the personal photograph, the current residency or visa copy, and the health insurance. Next slide, please. Quickly moving to the next slide, it is the UAE Residence Visa for the students. An expatriate who would like to study in UAE can obtain a residence visa to join a university. The student visa will be valid for 12 months and can be renewed or annually until the duration of his program in the university is over. So who will be applying for this visa? This will be either the college or the university in which he has taken that admission will be applying for the student visa. So what are the requirements to apply for the student's visa? It is again the passport copy, which must be valid at least for 6 months, the photo with the white background, receipt for the visa and tuition fees that normally the college will provide that, or the university will provide that, copy of the current visa if already inside the UAE, and copy of the offer or admission letter for the new students from the respective college and university, and accordingly authority will issue the visa, the student's visa for the students. Next slide, please. Moving to the freelance visa. Actually, see, UAE has covered almost all categories to be eligible for the visa. If either it is a high net value investors or an SME or a small investors who would like to start their career in the business and to understand the market and to have a visa to stay in UAE. That's the reason why UAE has introduced a new visa program. It is not a new visa program. Actually, it is an investment program, which is called the freelance license. A freelance license is a permit issued which allows you to work on your own as a freelancer, a sole practitioner, or as an independent contractor in the UAE. The permit will enable you to establish yourself as a one-person company, and from there, you can develop it into any heights. The freelance license will enable the freelancer to apply for the freelance visa, which is valid normally for the 3 years. And normally this freelance visa is applicable for the professionals and not for any categories. So when they're talking about the professionals, these are the list of professionals like the actors, screenwriters, anyone related to anything related to the media, like journalism, photography, and sales and marketing, advertising, branding, customer service, e-learning, anything related to IT like web development, graphic designing, copywriting, and blogging, and anything related to mobile application like the mobile app development, search engine optimization, computer related activities, and anything related to language translation and legal services. Next slide, please. And we are moving to the last section, which is called the UAE Residence Visa for the domestic workers in the UAE. So the UAE national or an expatriate resident in UAE can recruit the domestic worker under the personal sponsorship. The category of the domestic worker are either like an housemaid or a cook or a private driver, housekeeper, and similar kind of categories can be included in the domestic worker category. The domestic worker must have a resident visa to legally work in the UAE. And also they have to meet certain conditions and then only the authority will issue the visa. The domestic worker they should have a proof showing that the domestic worker is not related to the UAE. If the domestic worker is from the same nationality of the sponsor, then the sponsor has to obtain from the consulate or the embassy that the no relation certificate from the respective embassy to prove in front of the UAE that the domestic worker is not the relative of the same sponsor. The sponsor should be a resident in the UAE living with his or her family, and the sponsor must have, and the sponsor should also provide the tenancy contract that will be sufficient for them to sponsor a domestic worker. And if it is a driver category that the sponsor is applying for the visa, then the sponsor must have at least 2 cars registered under his or her name to be able to recruit a personal driver. Next slide, please. And how MBG can help. So as we discussed, so many factors which are backing up UAE's initiative to attract the investors and the professionals. And now it is the good time to make some smart business and investment decisions and make every decisions into opportunities, because UAE is known as the land of opportunities. To help you to do so and most effectively and profitably, and if you need a proper guidance, you can count on the MBG Corporate Services as your guiding partner. Our team of consultants who have in-depth expertise in the respective field can help you to review your requirement and guide your identity, the right visa category best fit for you. With that, that's the end of my section. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chandy and Delna, for these insights. That also brings us now to the end of the session. And as expected, these are hot topics, so we are getting a lot of questions in. Actually, the first question I would like to address to Delna. Of course, it's a very frequently asked question. What are the latest changes for 100% ownership?
Right. So we are still expecting to hear on that officially by the authorities. However, we are expecting the changes will be that now for a mainland company registered in UAE, a requirement for 51% ownership by UAE national might be taken off the plate. And perhaps when we are doing distribution of goods and services within UAE, earlier, currently the requirement is that local agents and distributors is required to partner up with us for the same. Now investors will directly be allowed to distribute within the UAE. However, there will be certain terms and conditions and requirements for the same. And this is the latest highlights that have been published, and we are yet to hear more about the laws and rules and regulations. Secondly, we will have in companies, there will be more strictness to ensure there's less fraud options for the leaders of the company. And there will also be a more management whole. There will be 100% management whole of the expat investor. No more requirement for UAE national to be the one in charge of the company as a majority shareholder. So that is what is intended.
Thanks, Delna. Next question I would like to address to Chandy. Chandy, we received a question regarding the retirement visa. Can I apply for the visa, for the retirement visa without a health insurance? And what will happen to my insurance if my application is rejected?
With regard to this question, actually, I would like to tell you that for applying for the retirement visa, prior to applying for the retirement visa, the retiree has to obtain a valid approved health insurance from the local service agent, and then only they will be able to apply for the retirement visa. Then the next question arises will be, what happens if the application gets rejected? See, actually, for this kind of insurance, the insurance providers are providing a provision of canceling the policy if the application is rejected, and they are giving a 30 days of grace period for that. So with whenever you are taking an insurance, you need to make sure with the insurance company that this clause is there in the policy. And normally for this kind of categories, insurance companies are providing this clause with a 30 days grace period, and accordingly they can cancel this insurance if the application is rejected.
Okay, thanks for that, Chandy. Next question, Dana, is again regarding the new regulations. What are the impacts of these FDI regulations on all of us?
So definitely there will be very positive impact for companies which are owned 51-49%. They will now be able to change, and the expat owner will be able to own 100% subject to certain terms and conditions and rules, of course. And that will give them more control, more hold of their company in the future, which will help them to grow. But in order to achieve these targets, right now is the time when they need to study all their current contracts with their local distributors, with their agents, with their Emirati partners, and try to understand how and what are the terms and conditions in such contracts, and how they can, move forward from such contracts. Furthermore, they will have to check on their ancillary contracts with third parties, vendors, customers, and how those will be impacted. Of course, they will have to check on what are the procedures as per the rules and regulations which will roll out by the authorities, and what are the requirements they have to fulfill, what are the documents, corporate secretarial documents they will have to prepare and submit to relevant authorities, what are the procedures of the authorities to ensure this change can be done and restructuring of the company can be done, and the possibilities of the same for the company from all kind of aspect, financial aspect, etc. Now is
Thanks.
the time when everyone has to really look through the information and see how they can grow and change to see a better tomorrow for them.
Very correct, Dana. I think there are a lot of similar questions, and you all answered them. There were a lot of questions. What do we as a LLC 49% owner of companies need to look at now? But I think all of these questions just got answered by you. Thank you. Chandy, I'll come back to you. We have more questions coming in regarding the visas. I'm working in a company for 19 years as a computer programmer. Am I eligible to get the golden visa?
Actually, as per the criteria, you will not be eligible for the golden visa, because as I detailed you in the presentation, actually there are certain criteria that the professionals has to meet actually to be eligible for this golden visa. But keeping our finger crossed, actually the UAE has already declared that this is just an initiative, or this is just in an initial stage. Very soon they will be adding more professionals, and they will be introducing more criteria to this. So stay updated. We will be updating you on a regular basis with regard to any changes which is happening with regard to the golden visa. Thank you.
Thanks, Chandy. And I think in the interest of time, we will take one more question regarding visa. We know it's a hot topic. We get a lot of questions still coming in, and we'll make sure that we will reach out to each one on this call individually. So Chandy, I would like to address the last question to you. How long does it take to get the golden visa, and how do I apply for it?
See, golden visa, it is actually a process. It is a 3-step process actually. So initially we have to provide the details to the authority, the personal details to the authority. So there is a questionnaire that the customer has to fill in the federal authority website, and accordingly the authority will review this application, and normally this will take approximately 30 days for them to review this application. And on the basis of the outcome of this review, if the authority feels that this applicant is eligible for the golden visa, then accordingly they will send a link to the applicant's email ID for them to upload the requested documents, and which will be followed by, again, a committee will review the application, and they will review the documents that the applicant has provided, and on the basis of that, the committee will decide whether they need to approve the golden visa or to reject the golden visa. So roughly we can say approximately around 50 to 60 working days. Normally this will take, the entire process will take for the authority to approve it. But in certain cases, we are seeing that in 40 days, 30 days also, we are seeing the applications are getting approved.
Okay, that was very clear. Thanks, Chandy. And yeah, to sum it up, I want to thank Delna and Chandy for taking out the time for this interesting session, for these very recent updates. Thank you also to the audience, the participants who were all there today. We have actually another webinar this week coming up from our China Enterprise Group on the FDA tax audit. We'll be happy if we can meet you during one of the next webinars, and we will make sure that we will keep you updated on these regulations, which we are expecting very soon. Thank you so much for joining us.